Um, so sorry, I was talking about college. So if you look at different majors, right? Something like sociology or psychology or even biology, physics, those all require an additional degree, a degree outside of your bachelor's. And so that kind of deterred me from those majors. Why I picked engineering. And then so I started school and I was on my own, but I found a pretty good support system in clubs on campus. So there were two that I joined. One was the American Society of Civil Engineering. So that was a lot of people in my major. And then I also joined the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. So that was more like my culture and like the people that I would like to surround myself with. So after freshman year, people from both those organizations kind of suggested that I go to info sessions, kind of like this. It's amazing that you're getting this opportunity now as high schoolers. But like for the first time I'd ever been to an info session when I was a freshman in college, and I happened to go to Turner's. So they put on a presentation about all of the cool jobs that we do, which at that time we were building Levi Stadium. And I'm a huge Niners fan. Sorry for all you Raiders fans out there. But when I saw that we were building the stadium, and I immediately went up to them and said, hi, can I please get a job? And they were like, well, what have you done? I was like, well, I had a job in high school. It was minimum wage, nothing fancy, but I'm a really good worker and I want to work for your company. So they said, well, freshmen, we don't really hire. We want you to be invested in your career, because if we are going to invest in you as a intern, we don't want you to leave us. So that's an interesting situation. It was an interesting situation for me because, like I was saying, I originally thought I was going to be an architect. Then I ended up going into engineering. And now all of a sudden there's this construction company saying, hey, we want you to commit to us. So I had to weigh those three paths, right? One, architecture was really appealing to me because I felt like I could be creative and that I would physically go and like see the things that I envisioned, right? Like your teacher just now showing you the apartment complex design, like that's amazing. So that was what really drew me to that. But the engineering side just seemed so natural for me, right? I was good at math and crunched through the numbers. It was a degree that you could get. And so that's how I picked that major. But construction really has stolen my heart in that when you are out in the field, like I'm in a trailer right now at a job site, you're out here every day. Every single day is different. I get a set of drawings, right? It's the architect or the engineer's vision, but ultimately it's up to us, Turner, my team, to actually build that and put it in place. So that same feeling that I thought I was going to get by being an architect student, I'm getting in construction, because as we finish a structure, I get to go and see it and say, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into that, right? I managed that project. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not out there actually like swinging a hammer every day. There are folks that do that, right? We call them tradesmen, trades people now. Um, but so that's even another part of construction, right? I'm in the construction management or general contracting realm, but then there's actually the trade partners that are out there physically building the building. So we can talk more about that if anybody's interested. I am keeping an eye on the chat in case you add anything as I go. So at that point, when Turner said, okay, well, go get some experience, show us you're invested. So as a freshman, you don't really have like construction know-how, or you don't know how to design anything at that point. So I volunteered for a lot of different activities that I thought might get me some sort of connection into the industry. So Habitat for Humanity was a really big part of my college experience, and getting to participate on actual work site, seeing something be built and put together, talking to the managers on site regarding how much it costs or how many people that they needed to build a house. Those kinds of things started piquing my interest and was something I could put on my resume. Another item was the senior design project. So every college has a senior class that has to complete their final project before they graduate. And so um, one of those activities was building a steel bridge. It's a small steel bridge, maybe like 40 feet long, 6 feet wide or so. But the seniors had to design how all the parts and pieces went together. And then they actually competed in a competition, building it as fast as they can. And then they had to withstand a certain amount of force. So again, I had no experience in design or construction. I didn't know how I could help, but the senior designers ended up being able to use me as what they called a runner. So I just ran the pieces of the steel bridge back and forth as it was being built during the competition. But again, that experience and kind of getting out there and taking that opportunity allowed me to put something on my resume. So I'll pause there since I saw that I have a question. This is, how do you guys exactly trade? What materials or things do you guys trade with, and who do you trade with? So maybe I use a word or like a phrase we're not familiar with. Trade people or trade partners is actually talking about like a skilled craft. So like a person in a trade is a skilled person who is perfecting how to install something special. So one of a trade that like you guys would know is sheet metal. So you know the HVAC in your house and all the ducting and like the little vents, right? Like that is a trade. That would be a sheet metal person. And so there are tons of different trades: electricians, sheet metal, plumbing, or pipe fitters, drywall, carpenters, right? They do all the drywall and their framing in your house or your buildings. You have iron workers who actually like weld steel. So all of these different trades are available to you if you want to start working in any of them. They also all have front offices that require people who have gone, through high school, through college to go in and run like the accounting and kind of processing the paperwork from an architectural team to the tradespeople, so that the tradespeople know what they're building, and like if they have any questions about like what the architect's intent was, somebody can work on that too. But in general, that's what a trade is. So sorry, my phone's buzzing. And then it says, I got another one. Do you have any advice for students that would like to receive when you were in high school? I'm gonna think on that one.
But this is the junior class, so this is the junior class, so they have one more year of high school as well.
Okay. I guess as a junior, what helped my success was maintaining my energy level for different extracurriculars, and also like a lot of personal development, to be honest. I spent a lot, I went to or I'm Catholic, and so I went to a retreat, and it was very introspective. So I thought a lot about like my own actions growing up, and like what challenges that I've had in the way of pressure, right? From society. Society tells you need to get straight A's, you need to do extracurriculars, you need to play sports, you need to do all these things, right? And so I think my junior year, I was kind of fed up, and I just felt like the world was asking too much. But my family support system said, hey, you've got a lot of potential. You have a really good heart, you have good energy. Take those strengths, don't focus on all the stress of your weaknesses, but take the strengths that you have and just build on them, because that makes you who you are. And when you go to a college or you're applying to colleges, and you'll get to see like how they'll see that in you. They'll see the energy that you bring. They'll see the personality that you have, and your application essays and your extracurriculars and the way your writing comes across. And so I would say just keep going, keep persevering. Sometimes high school seems tough, but that's the advice that I had, and it worked out. So the culture of our organization. So I think that, well, okay. So I built up my resume my freshman year, and then sophomore year came back around and I went to another info session with Turner. And as soon as I walked in the room, the recruiter that was there before recognized me and he said, "Hey, let me see your resume." I was like, "Okay," and I was like, "Here's all the things that I've done, since you told me to go show that I was committed." And that was it. Like, I had a little small interview after that, but and I've been working for Turner since 2013. So I think that, to answer that culture question, Turner is very much an opportunist company. Like, if we see an opportunity in you, if we see an opportunity with a client, if we see an opportunity to make something better, like, we're just going to take it. There's not too much thinking, because ultimately we just want to be the best builders. And in order to do that, you have to have the best people. So for the recruiter to say, "Hey, I remember you. I remember, you were passionate before, and now you've actually proven that you have what it takes. We'll take you." And it really isn't, you don't have to think much further than that. So if you guys were going to apply, or if you were, looking to apply to a similar type of company, like, just focus on being good people. Obviously maintain your grades if you can, but good people with a passion. And that's the culture that construction has, because not to talk about the bad side of things, but it is a lot of hours. It's a lot of work that we put in because the client has a dream to build a building or a structure, and we have to build it as fast as we can for them, or as fast as they're willing to pay for it, really. And so it takes a lot of personal investment by each person within the organization to make it successful. And that's kind of the Turner brand, right? We have a lot of really passionate people, people who would come and take time to talk to groups, that they're just personally interested in because they have a passion for it. So yeah. What kind of skills could you invest in high school that would help you in the future? Writing. I write a lot of emails every day. I actually, on my first job, I was an intern, and I wrote an email to an architect, and the boss's boss actually came over to my desk, had the email printed out, and was like, "Can I talk to you about this?" I was like, "Oh no, what did I do?" But he just sat down. He said, "Hey, typically if you have different thoughts, separate them into paragraphs, use semicolons here, capitalize things." There was just like some generic feedback that I kind of felt like I probably should have learned, either in high school or in college. So I don't know if your program offers like a communications class, or a writing class, but I would definitely take it if you have that option. Typing's also pretty good. When in Excel, I hear that college doesn't teach Excel anymore, so you guys better learn it in high school, because we use spreadsheets all the time, because nobody knows how to do math anymore. We just type it in the spreadsheet. Tell me about a time when you had multiple projects complete at once, and how did you prioritize? So my, I guess, first year out of school, I worked for a client, confidential client, in the Silicon Valley, and the Turner team had $40 million worth of work on the site. I personally was in charge of about 6, and that 6 million had about 20 different small projects. So the first thing that I did when I got that assignment is I said, "What is the required completion for each of these projects?" Right? I wanted to know what the client's expectations were for when we had to finish the scope. And then I worked my way backwards from there, and I said, "Okay, well, how long will each of these take? When do I have to start them? And when can I start them?" And so as each day went through, I would look at my priority list, or my to-do list, I guess, and I prioritize it in a way that said, what is important and easy to do? What is important and a little difficult to do? And then what is not important, but it's easy to do, right? And trying to address those items in that order allowed me to tackle all the important things before they became urgent, and then just get rid of the backlog too, right? Because sometimes it can become crushing if you don't take care of all the little nuances, the not important things. If you just ignore them forever, then they're probably going to become important at some point. So that's my personal tool that I use to prioritize. Another thing I do is like I'll categorize the different kind of areas of work. So you always hear about cost, schedule, and safety in construction. And so safety is number one always. So if there was any safety concerns ever, that'll be the first thing that I address. And then next comes cost and schedule. And so I could take like every other day to look at each one of those so that I make sure that I'm not just focused all on schedule and ignoring cost, or focused all on cost and ignoring schedule. So even though like maybe during that week, schedule seems like the most important thing I could work on, if I'm not at least looking at cost, something's going to become very important the week after and I'll have dropped the ball. So when I prioritize, I just want to make sure that I'm touching all of those different facets of what I do. I do important projects first. Yep. Important and easy to do first. So say you had two really important things to do. One being go to the DMV, the other one to be pay your cell phone bill, right? Which one's going to be really fast? What's like something you can just take off your list right away? Pay your cell phone bill. Like just do it online, or just write a check and send it in, and you don't have to think about it anymore, right? Whereas the DMV, you'd have to go sit in line and wait and wait and wait. So for example, if you were going to the DMV at 8 in the morning and you spent all day there before you know it, the day is done, you never submitted your phone payment. Oh shoot, So in my world, those kinds of like durations of time are like could be hours. So if I'm not taking care of something that takes 5 minutes to do, and I'm spending 2 hours on something else, then maybe I'm never going to get to that thing that took 5 minutes, even though it was so simple to do. So that's why I talked about like the important easy versus important hard. Okay. So in 2013, I came on as an intern, my sophomore year in school. And as an intern, I had no idea what I was doing. Like someone told me to go look at construction drawings, and I was like, oh good, what do those look like? Where are they? And how long do I have to look at them for? Now I know, if I were to be told go look at some drawings, I would sit down with them for a few minutes, get a feel of what the job is, and then go ask some questions. But I spent like 3 days just staring at paper, like no idea what I was looking at, like nothing. So after that time, I went and touched base with my manager and said, hey, what exactly did you want me to look at here? And so then she walked me through, hey, here's what a legend looks like. Here's what notes are. Here's what the little diagrams are. And that helped me start build confidence, because I could begin to understand what it was, we were doing out there. Like, why did this company pay us? What was our role? But I didn't know any of that when I came on with Turner. It was all taught to me. And I'm really thankful for patient mentors and teachers, because without them, I could have still been that person just sitting there, like flipping through the papers, just trying to understand stuff on my own. And I think that Turner is really, really good at coaching and mentoring our own staff. We have a lot of really great people, like I said, a lot of people with a lot of passion. So they want to share their story. They want to teach other people. They want to see you grow. So that was really nice. I was an intern for 2 years. I did some small projects, like little renovations. So I would go into an office building, demo out all of like the cubicles and the lights and the ceiling. And then the next phase was to like put the carpet back in and put all the cubicles in, put all the ceilings in. So I did that for 6 months. And then I went to a hospital very different. But again, I just got partnered with somebody, or, with a mentor that was able to show me, okay, this is how a hospital is different from the last job you were on. Here's all the different things that you need to look out for. And I spent a year and a half on that job. So I got to learn two very different parts of construction in my internship. And then I took the summer off, which I really recommend after you graduate. And I came back to actually that confidential client, but this time we were doing really intense lab spaces. So dealt with like robots and semiconductor tools and like those kinds of things. Again, very different, right? I went from building cubicles to a hospital, and now I'm dealing with robots. Like, so strange. But all of your skill sets that you learn, like communication, and just kind of how to research different problems, those all translate from job to job to job. So Turner is a company that's very big, right? We do $10 billion worth of work every year. But our average project's only 10 million. So when you think about it that way, there's tons of small projects where you're going to have quick hitters. $10 million is about 9 months of a job. Really, you could do it in a couple months on a big job, but if you're doing standalone projects, about 9 months. So there's a lot of turnover in the different projects that you do. And so you kind of develop like your whole skill set base from project to project to project. Budgeting for projects. So I didn't start budgeting until I graduated. I had already done what we call project engineering. So we review the architect's drawings and we ask questions for clarity so that we know that what we're building is correct. But after I kind of perfected that or mastered that, then you go into budgeting. So the way that most of us budget is by looking at different systems of a job and saying, okay, how many linear feet or square feet is this? How much material is that? And then how long do you think it's going to take one person to do it? And then you multiply that out based on obviously how much material you have and then how quickly you need to do the work. So, I mean, you could put one person on a wall and they could work on a wall for 2 weeks and then they finish the wall. But if you put 4 people on the wall, would it get done faster? How much faster? And so that's how you set your budget. So you figure out what your manpower needs to be or your people power and what your material costs are. You multiply it out based on what you see on the drawings. Sorry, there's a dog in our trailer. It's the right environment for us. So yeah, that's budgeting. Turner always does projects in a group. It might be a group of 2 if it's a small job. If it's less than $5 million, usually there's only 2 or 3 people on it. I'm on a job right now that's $40 million and we have 8 people. I came off of a job in Sacramento that was $520 million and that had 60 people. So your teams look very different depending on what kind of job you're doing. On the $520 million job, we had like a project executive, so way up here, project PM, me, I was what you call project controls, project engineering, superintending, and then all of the engineers and superintendents under them. And basically when you come to work for a company like Turner, you have 2 options. One, you're going to be what we call project engineers, or you're going to be a superintendent. And basically the way that those roles are broken up is an engineer spends a lot of time looking at the drawings and trying to find problems with the drawings, to ask questions and get ahead of issues that happen in the field. And then a superintendent also looks at the drawings, but from a perspective where, okay, tomorrow, this is what I'm building. The next day, this is what I'm building. And they understand the intricacies of the details. So like if there's a plate and there's a stand that has to go on a plate, the superintendent knows how to attach that. Whereas the engineer might just say, hey, do you have the plate and do you have the stand on the plate? Do you have everything you need? So one's kind of a proactive design approach. The other one's trying to be a proactive installation approach. I've done both. I was an engineer when I was in the Bay Area. And then 2 years ago, I moved up to Sacramento, back to Sacramento with my family. And I was a superintendent for a little bit. So I think both aspects are fun. Both are challenging. And it just kind of depends what fits your personality more. As an engineer, you're talking a lot with your client. You're talking a lot with like project managers for the different trade partners or subcontractors. And then as a superintendent, you're talking more with like the field foreman and the tradespeople who actually like are physically putting the work in place. So a little bit of different personalities, a little bit of different just personalities. I mean, I think it was like my second week, and one of the guys that was leading the framing crew just started yelling at me for no reason. He was just like, I can't do this. And I was like, dude, it's like my first week. I don't know what you can or can't do yet. You know, I'm not here to tell you. I just want to help you through it. And he appreciated that approach, but that approach was definitely learned in the office. Whereas, you know, some field guys are like, why aren't you done with this yet? You know? So it's very interesting to develop your own style, your own personality while you're in your career. I think you guys will find that, you know, who you were when you first started is probably not who you're going to be 5 years in or 10 years in, because you learn different things. You learn how to approach different situations, different personalities, people, and so you just become a little more refined and a little more skilled in the way of people management, because that's ultimately what construction is. Like, we might be building a building, but we're managing people people and personalities. If a client pays us more, we can do the project faster. Yeah. There are certain limits. Like if you're gonna build one small box, you can't have 10 people building the box, right? That's too many hands, too many cooks in the kitchen type of thing. We call that trade stacking. We try not to do that because it makes the project really inefficient and people really grumpy. So what a client can do though is say we want to build a box, and normally we only build a box during the day. The client can pay us extra to start building the box at night as well. So then you have two different crews that are building. It obviously goes faster. So that's a client's choice if they want to pay the premium for a whole nother crew or just an overtime rate for people. They can make that choice. And how we present that to them is we say, hey, here's our schedule where we're only working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Here's our schedule if we're working 7 days a week. You know, we're shortening the overall duration of the project because you add 2 days a week, but here's what it costs you. And every client's different in what their priorities are and if they make that decision or not. So Turner doesn't do residential. Fun fact, we feel like there's too much risk. I remember when I said it's a people business and we're in it for construction, like seeing the glory and all that. At the end of the day, you also have to pay all the people that work for Turner, and pay all the subs that work for us as well. And so if we don't make good business decisions, then our jobs could be at risk. So one of the business decisions that we made was not to do residential construction. Reason being, when people move into their house or their apartment, they're very picky about what they're seeing, right? When you see something wrong at your apartment, you say, hey, you know, call up the landlord, hey, I want to fix this, right? Whereas if you, you know, you were in your office building and you saw like a scratch on a wall or something, you're not going to call up the facilities people and be like, hey, there's a scratch on the wall, right? So that's kind of the truth behind our business selection there. But there are companies that are smaller than Turner who would do specific like residential construction. So I'm a general contractor on a $10 billion company, but there are general contractors who do much less in revenue every year, you know, just local people in the Bay Area, mom and pops who can go and hire 6 people and build a house. So we have 8,000 people that work for us. So if we were trying to build houses all over the place, we'd have a pretty hard time, separating people from what they're doing to go and do the smaller jobs. Okay, hopefully that answered your guys' questions. You guys can always like follow up on questions too if I didn't answer it the way you wanted to or anything. So my growth, right? I told you I was 27 and a project manager. When I was an intern, I asked a ton of questions. I thought it might be a little annoying, but my managers always assured me like, no, I'd rather you look through something and ask a question than just spend your time looking through it and make a decision that's the wrong one. So I probably asked like 30 questions a day for my first summer. And then I got a little bit of an idea of like how to make decisions. And I think that in construction, especially, decision making is very important because you have a schedule to meet, you have costs that you need to stay under, and ultimately time is money. So if you take too long to churn through all the facts that you have and you wait 5 days to make a decision, that's 5 days that something's not getting built, And if your schedule is only 2 months, 3 months, 5 days is a really long time to wait. So as I got all of this insight from my mentors and my supervisors because of all the questions I was asking, it gave me the confidence to start making decisions. I messed up a few times, but Turner affords me the opportunity to do that, right? As you progress through a company, they want you to make decisions and make mistakes because you won't make the same mistake twice. Like you'll learn from what you did and you'll be better for it. So as you finish up your senior year, think about all the questions, I guess, that you guys haven't been asking, right? Maybe you're in a class and you're just kind of skating through and you're just like, yeah, I generally understand. I know enough to pass the class. Okay, that's fine. But if you were then to move on to another school or had another teacher of the same subject and they ask you a question, would you know that answer? Are you really an expert in that subject at this point? For things that you've learned over this architecture class, like if you were to go out on a project and say, oh yeah, I took an architecture class in high school, and someone goes, oh yeah, what's this? Would you know the answer or would you not? Those are the kinds of like challenges that you can place on yourself over the next year and a half to really help get you in the continuous improvement mindset for your career. Because once you move from position to position or year after year, you're expected to learn more, right? And it's not a memorizing game, because if you're trying to just memorize what you need to do, what's going to happen when you move from that robotics area into a hospital? Like they're very different. So if you're just memorizing all of the steps, then you're not going to have any success. So I think it's just important to take that approach in life. For me anyways. Yeah, but I think that pretty much gets us to today. I'm actually up in Reno right now, Reno, Nevada. Turner won a job up here with another confidential client. And because of the skill sets that I had learned at the robotics area, and I also did a data center, my skills transferred both my interpersonal, right, being able to communicate and present, but also my technical skills. What kind of jobs have you seen? What do you know how to build? And so I was selected for this opportunity. So they pay for my housing, they pay for my car. We go out to dinner and once a week with the whole project team. It's socially distanced, of course, but it's been pretty great. And I think that if you can work to communicate your skill sets and really prove that you know what you're doing, you're not just skating by, then you'll see similar opportunities as you get into colleges, as you have internships, going afterwards. And even if college isn't for you, like same thing. When I was in Sacramento, I was helping the Sierra Trades Building Council with their trade development. So they took high schoolers put them through a test that the Army actually takes. But that test, depending on how you score, you're able to classify or qualify to be part of the different trades. So you could be a sheet metal person, you could be a pipe fitter, you could be an electrician, depending on what you score. And so after people scored, they then, come talk to somebody like me or someone with Turner and just say, hey, do you think that this is a good career path? Do you think that this is something that I would like to do? And, we could tell them the pros and cons because we've seen all of the different trades. We contract all of them to work for us. So you could still end up inadvertently working for Turner by going and working for a trade and getting into a company that then completes the Turner project. So, but your personality sets you apart always. So just have faith in that.
We have about another 10 minutes. So students, if you have any last final questions, feel free to type in the chat. I do have questions that I think I come across this a lot in regards to just meeting with industry partners. And I'm always asking like, what does it take for our students to get hired into a company like yours and things along those lines? And I always get the feedback of developing soft skill, right? Developing soft skill. So I guess my question to you for our students is, what do you consider to be one of the most important soft skills that students can continue to develop now?
I think the most important soft skill that I've learned is patience, because it doesn't come naturally to me. The reason that is important is because construction's a very high-paced environment. And if you don't have the patience to kind of work through the different problems or listen to feedback from other people, then you're not going to be successful meeting their needs or really just like responding in a way that's positive for them. I read a book actually that I would recommend. It's called The 4 Agreements. And it presents 4 principles or ways of life for you to present yourself to the world and for you to also interpret the world, right? Like the most important one for me, I think, is don't make assumptions, because sometimes some, hot-headed person's going to come into your office space and just start yelling at you. And it's like, you can't take that personal. Like, he's not really yelling at you. They're yelling because they're frustrated about a situation or, something went wrong and like it was out of their control and they're taking it out on you. And I think that knowing that helps me have more better days than not, because otherwise people will really take advantage of you. So those kinds of soft skills, just like understanding and patience, I think.
Amazing. Students, any last question for Amanda? Dig into her brain just a little bit. Any last question as we wrap up the class?
I would add for the females too. I was one of 5 civil engineering students. Until 2 weeks ago, I was the only female on my current construction job, which I told you I had a staff of 8, but in the field we have about 150 people and I'm the only female. So it's a little daunting in that aspect, but you work with really good people, just, genuine hard workers that again have a passion for the industry. So as long as, and this goes for guys and girls, but as long as, you guys are approaching every situation as if you're the dumbest person in the room, they've been doing it a lot longer than you. So just stay humble in your approach and you'll be fine. Like I really do believe that the gender stereotypes between females and males are definitely getting broken in construction right now. I think I've had a lot of really supportive male mentors and have coached a lot of strong, females coming up too. And so I just think that the gap there is definitely starting to be bridged, especially within Turner. Like I've never felt discriminated against within Turner. So that's helped.
Well, and actually, I was going to ask something in regards to that, and I'm glad to hear that because my daughter is actually an engineer also, and she shared some of the things of being a female in a male world, and so it's not totally contrary to what you're saying, but I mean, there's a lot of points of aggravation that has shared along the way, and I think it's probably a testament to Turner and what they've done in regards to making sure that you start doing the culture shift, because I mean, construction is predominantly male. There's been a lot of shift in regards to what's politically correct and what's acceptable. And so, can you share any of the things that you feel Turner has done to share that, to set that culture that it's not just female friendly, but just all inclusive?
Mhm. Yeah, we have employee resource groups. So similar to like clubs in school, we have clubs in the professional world. One of them being the professional women's group. So I think almost every female within Turner belongs to it. And what they do is they'll host special workshops for things that they're stereotyping us, but things that typically females wouldn't be good at. Maybe thinking about like business sense, right? Everybody always says, oh, men have such good business sense. And maybe that's true. But maybe it's because as young men, they've been conditioned to say, oh, you need to know business, you need to learn business, and maybe females haven't. So Turner will offer opportunities like that, different trainings that you can attend. So that was like a female side. We also have a bunch of different cultural and like sexual affiliations and those kinds of groups, because ultimately we want everyone to feel like Turner is home, right? Even if real home life isn't good, like you should be able to come to work every day and feel comfortable in the skin you're in and with the team that you participate with. Especially like in Reno, I don't know anybody here personally, but our Turner team is great. I mean, we'll go skiing on the weekends. Like we definitely look out for each other and just try to support each other. And Turner definitely does that on a regional and a national basis as well. Like Elena is one of my favorite people of all times. And she got me into a lot of different ERGs when I first came on board, just so that I could kind of find my fit within the company.
Amazing. So we're gonna wrap up here. We do want to say, Amanda, thank you so much for spending your morning with our students and on our last class of Q3. We really appreciate you sharing your story, giving student advice. This is so valuable for our students to hear from someone who come from similar background, who have similar interests as our students do, and just being able to kind of shed light on the skill set and the things that our students should be doing and continue to be doing to be successful as you are. And it's extremely beautiful to make this connection for our students. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your stories and everything that you and Turner is doing for our students and for our school and for our family. Sanchez, say hi real quick because I want to show something real quick.
Me?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Sanchez, can you move to the right just a little bit to move? Yeah, there you go. So you see that young lady in the back next to Sanchez? That's actually our students who was here 3 years ago. She was at your seat 3 years ago. And she was sponsored by Turner right out from high school. And now she left her job. She's still communicating with me. We still chat via the phone and so on and so forth. But she was sitting in your seat, students, and she found her passion in construction. She found her passion in carpentry specifically. And she went to every event that we had provided her with. She joined every after school club that had something to do with construction. And then Elena, who is the other lady who's next to her, she essentially sponsored her into Turner. And now she's basically living her best life at the age, she started out at the age of 18. Actually, she started out when she was 17 and a half. And she got to a pre-apprenticeship program. When she's 18, she's living her best life, doing the work that she kind of just have the passion for. And that's so hard to find. Like most people in this world live their life and not really knowing what they want to do. So the sooner you discover what your interests are, the sooner you can be able to kind of strive for that goal, strive for that job, that career, and strive to live that best life. And she was in your seat. and she came in our program not knowing what she wanted to do. So I would highly recommend, as you kind of ending your last year and a half with Fremont, is to take every opportunity that come your way, put yourself out there. It might feel uncomfortable, uneasy, and that's actually a good thing, because get used to being uncomfortable, because you will grow and learn the most when you're in that environment.
Can I add something, Mr. Huang?
Yes, please, Mr. Sanchez.
So again, you know, something that Amanda shared earlier is about, you know, Mr. Huang came back to teach. He's following his passion. And so, you know, that's our jobs as educators, is prepare you guys so that you can make the choice. You got young women and young men can make the choice, because, you know, people say construction, no, that's for those people. Is not for those people. You know, Anai was accepted into UC Davis. She got accepted into UC Merced. If I'm not mistaken, she was given a full ride with scholarship to UC Davis. And she called me and she goes, "What do I do?" And I said, "What do you want to do?" She goes, "The teacher said." I said, "No. What do you want to do?" She goes, "The teacher said I should take the one if anyone gives me a free ride, go with that one." And I said, "You're not answering my question. What do you want to do?" She goes, "I want to be a carpenter." He goes, "Then go be a carpenter. Go." You're lucky enough that, you know, Turner and Tradeswoman Inc. sponsored you into the trades, and Turner's going to give you a job as soon as you're done. But if you don't want to do that, if you really want to go to Davis, or if you really want to go to UC Merced, you get to choose. So when you leave Fremont, whether you leave straight into a construction program, whether you go into a 2-year program or a 4-year program, we want you to make that choice. And yes, she's living that life. You know, she was probably in the top 10% of Fremont. And when people made that at first, they were like, "What?" And now she's, you know, money isn't everything, but she's helping her family. She's making over $40-something an hour, because, you know, she's 3 years in. And so when she finishes, she'll be doing something she loves, and she'll be making over $100,000 a year, which is, you know, twice what teachers make, Mike.
There's a lot to be said about going into the trades. I mean, you don't have to go to college and have all that debt. You get to literally leave high school and start immediately doing your whole career. And you have a pension afterwards too, if you're in a union. So they set you up for retirement. You don't have to worry about that. Like, there's a lot to be said about going into the trades. And I can totally talk to any of you about your own personal journeys. I put my LinkedIn on online. You can message me and I'll respond. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time once again. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Students, please stick around
Thank
for
Turner.
another few minutes.
Thank you, Turner.
Yes, thank you, Turner.
Yeah.
Students, please stick around for another like 2-3 more minutes before this quarter end. I do want to speak to you about this class's final words and grades and so forth. Mrs. Sanchez, thank you so much for your time and your effort and everything you do. Students, once again, this is our last class. This is it. Friday is the last class of this quarter, meaning if you have any makeup work that you need to do, you have to get it in by Friday at 5 p.m. this week. I had to put in grades and so on and so forth. And then I do want to open this up for Socorro to make an announcement as well while you guys are still here. Socorro, please take it over. Before you take it over, I'm going to end this recording real quick.